Hello, welcome to a Halloween special video. I felt I probably should make a Halloween themed video this week because, well, YouTube algorithm. And basically I settled on kind of like a you choose the assets, I make the video game type video, only I'm gonna choose the assets. So before we get into the video, I just want to say someone brought to my attention that in the last video, my end screen cards, the thing where YouTube links out to other videos, was obscuring the names of my amazing Patreons. So obviously that's no good. So I will fix that going forward, but as a sort of apology, I guess, you're getting pre-roll instead of end credits this episode. So here are my beautiful Patreons. You'll notice there's a new name on there. Professor DJ has recently signed up on the Sugar Daddy / Mama level, so he gets a special shout out, and then obviously by no means minimizing the contribution of the other Patreons. I love you all, even Andrew. So this is the asset I picked. I just went onto the Unity asset store and typed Halloween, clicked free, and this cool little asset showed up. This is a full complete graveyard. This is the scene that comes pre-assembled with it, so I haven't built this. This is the demo scene that came with it. I'm just going to use this. So I'm going to try and spend as little time as possible faffing about with things and just do some nice coding and stuff like that, and try and show you a few things that I haven't already covered in other videos. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make it look a bit more Halloween-ish, or give it a bit more ambience, because right now it's got this weird solid background and faded out white fog type deal. So let's just fix that. So straight away we go into our camera, change skybox to solid color, and change the color of that solid color to black, which gets rid of that weird blue sky. Now we have this issue with the faded out sort of white color, which we can fix by going into rendering, lighting, and fog color, and we just make that also black, and immediately that scene looks 10 times better. Obviously it's different if you're working with different render pipelines or if you are using volumetric fog or something like that, but just doing this makes a massive difference. And obviously you can change where the fog comes to, make it even creepier. So I'm going to leave it there. That looks good. This is the main asset. The other asset that I pulled in is this little mummy thing here. So if I just find one of the models, and somewhere down here we have this little rig character, and he doesn't have a material on, we can fix that. And the materials are here, we'll grab yellow, and there. He looks kind of cool. So there is a controller script that comes with this mummy, although we're not going to use it because it's, well, for one thing it only does jump, but also it's for player controlled, and we're not going to be going player controlled. I haven't fully decided the direction this video is going to go yet, but it's going to start with basically a graveyard full of NPC zombie mummy type things. Technically it's a mummy, but I'm thinking of it as a zombie. Let's get into our scripts, and somewhere around here I should have a scripts folder. Now we're going to create even a new script, which we'll just call Mummy Controller. Let's open that up. So straight away, we'll get rid of these. Straight away, we're going to need a couple of references. So we want a transform reference to our camera. Oh, we want to make these. No, we won't make them public actually. We'll grab them in code. So we want a transform reference to our camera, and it has to be underscore, because if you just call it camera, it comes up with a complaint saying that it's hiding a reference to the actual camera, so we can't use that. And then we want animator, which will stick with the same naming convention. And we want something new, which we're going to need to include a new library for, which is called Unity Engine.ai. And the component we want from that is called a nav mesh agent, which we'll just call agent. And then in our start, we want to grab all of these. So camera equals, and we're just going to say camera.main.transform. Animator equals get component animator. And nav mesh agent equals, oh, have I spelled something wrong here? Yes, animator. And then nav mesh agent, exactly the same, equals get component nav mesh agent. Now if we go back to Unity, and then in Unity we want to ensure that all of these things are available. So we already have an animator there, that's fine. The camera already exists in the scene. We do need to add the nav mesh agent. So let's explain the nav mesh agent for people who've never played with this. The nav mesh and the navigation system and all this kind of thing that I'm about to show you is the pathfinding system that is built into Unity. The Unity system is very good, and it's especially good for beginners, people who just want to, or prototyping and things like that, who just want to quickly get something going because it's very easy to use. Basically, as you can see, we've got this big cylinder around our player. This cylinder represents think of it as a collider. It's essentially a collider, although it doesn't collide. It's not for the physics system, it's just for the pathfinding. So let's just start off by making that more representative of our little mummy zombie dude. So that looks about right, and then we'll bring it down to there. Yeah, that looks fine. So you've got other values like your qualities, obviously the quality of the pathfinding. The higher the quality, the better the pathfinding, but also the more CPU intensive it's going to be, and some other stuff like the speed that it walks at, the speed that it turns at, how quickly it starts moving, how long a distance it takes to stop. So 0, obviously it will stop immediately, whereas you can also have it slow down over a distance. The other component to this is the navigation component, which is here. Now if this won't be there by default. To get to this, you go to Window, you go to AI, and you click Navigation, and that will bring up this separate window here in the inspector. This part here, the bake tab, this covers details about how it bakes the map. So the agent radius is sort of the space that you want, the amount of flat ground, or the walkable surface area, that's the word. The amount of walkable surface area that you want the pathfinding system to consider sufficient. So basically this is 0.3, so if the gap between two of these gravestones is 0.28, pathfinding system will not mark that as a walkable space. So there's that, there's the agent's height. So again, if something is too low, even though you've got this collider here, you want to allow for a little bit of space, otherwise you're going to have your little character's going to struggle to walk through it. And then max slope is if it's walking up an incline and the angle of that incline is more than 45 degrees, again the agent won't consider it a walkable surface. Step height, if there is something to step up and it's less than 0.4, the agent will consider it walkable. If it's more than 0.4, it will ignore it. And so same for drop height and jump distance and so on. What you do is you then assign certain objects walkable and not walkable status. Right now, everything should be assigned as not walkable, I think. And if I click on this, which is the plane that the floor is. Oh, this is already set to walkable. So you could then go to say something like this and it's set to not walkable. Okay, so it's done a pretty good job at guessing itself. Let's just generate and see what it looks like. So if we go back to bake and we click bake, we can see we now have this blue mesh everywhere. So anywhere where there is blue, that is what the navigation system, the pathfinding system, considers a walkable area. We're going to test this with a simple mouse script just to make sure everything's working fine. So if we go back to, let's just quickly make, we're just going to stick it in the scripts folder because this isn't going to be a proper game. This is just a fun Halloween video. Let's just make an animation controller. And then if we go into our mummy folder and our models, we should have a bunch of animations, and we'll just grab idle, just so it's doing something when we actually play. Right, back to our script. So the way we're going to test this is we're going to get a mouse click, get the world position of the mouse when we click, and then basically set our little dude walking off in that direction. So the way we do that is we say if input.get button down, get mouse button down. Of course, this wants to be in a function. I have coded before, I promise. So if mouse button down, and we're getting mouse 0, and then we want raycast hit, and then we want to make a ray also, which we'll just call ray, equals camera.main.screen to point, no, sorry, screen point to ray, and then the point on the screen that we're going to get is the input.mouse position. Two things. Firstly, we don't need that dot there, and secondly, we don't need to do camera.main because we cached the camera. No, we didn't cache the camera, we cached a transform. That wants to be a camera. There we go. And that just wants to equal camera.main. We will need the transform at a later date, but that's just, I wasn't thinking. As per usual. So then we want to say if physics.raycast, and then we want to pass in our ray and pass in our hit point to get the information out, and then we'll just give it a value of 100F. If you do something like this and you put your camera higher above the ground than I'm going to, then you might need to change that value. And then in here, we're just going to say agent.set destination hit.point, and make sure we put all of our brackets in. So if I press play now, I've just remembered I never actually put our animation controller into our mummy. So let's highlight the navigation system, zoom that out a bit, and if I press play now, we should first off, we should see that our mummy is idling. Yep, so we have a nice little idle animation there. And then second off, if I click somewhere, absolutely nothing happens. And the reason nothing happens is because Dozy so-and-so here forgot to put the script onto the mummy. So let's just try that again. Highlight the nav mesh, and there we go. We can see him walking. And if I click over here, he should find his way through. And you can see it highlighting the parts of the mesh that he's deciding to walk on. And as a big test, if I click over here, he should head all the way out and walk around the outside. So we can see the pathfinding working there, and you can see this little red line telling him where his next point is. So that's great, so we know that works. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get him to actually walk and make it look a bit more realistic. So the way the pathfinding system works is it kind of does a series of straight lines. Basically, it will find the quickest route it can in a series of straight lines. So let's find our animations and see what we're working with. I haven't properly looked at this, so we're discovering this together. Walk. Okay, let's get off of our navigation thing. Let's see what kind of walk we've got. Right, so our walk isn't, there's no root motion on this walk, which kind of, I suppose it simplifies things. It means it's not an option for me to let the animation do the walking. They don't look like very zombie-ish animations, but well, beggars can't be choosers. This was a free asset. Crippled walk, that might be a good one. Yeah, let's go with crippled walk. So if we go into our animator, drag that in there, and we will just say, we'll put a bool in there. It's moving, and then transition from there. If moving, and then transition back. If moving is false. We don't want any exit times. Now, in here, what we want to do, whenever we set a new destination, the first thing we want to do is set that bool. So set bool, what do we call it? Moving true. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a check, but so this is going to be a bit of a half-assed check because there are other... Basically what we're going to do is we're going to say, are we at our destination? And we're going to do it with a distance check. But there are other outcomes that we really should be checking for if we were doing this properly, if this wasn't just a quick little fun video. For example, if somehow the pathing system was given a destination that is unreachable. But we're not going to check for that because we're in control of we're in complete control of where our pathing system's destinations are going to be set. So hopefully that won't occur. But in any case, I mean, it's good practice to do it anyway, but like I say, this is a short little fun video, so we won't do that here. But we're just going to say if vector3.distance, and then we're going to pass in transform.position and nav mesh agent. No, we didn't call it that. We called it _agent.destination is less than 0.1F. We don't want to put 0 because sometimes it might never actually hit exact 0, and what you kind of find is that it hits its spot and then it kind of freaks out and wobbles backwards and forwards and stuff indefinitely. So if we're within range of our destination, let's say animator.set bool moving false. So now if we run the program and we click, we find not only does he move to his destination and stop, but also he's got this little walking animation. Now, if we just adjust the settings on his walking, we should be able to make it look a bit more realistic. So we're going to make his angular speed higher because we want him to turn a bit quicker. His acceleration we'll make lower, and his walk speed we've already made lower, and hopefully that will look a bit more realistic. Yeah, that looks much better. I would say he's still moving a bit fast for his walking animation, so let's go a little bit lower. 0.75. leave it at that. So now what we're going to do is we are going to make it so that this handles all of that by itself, so we don't have to click. So first off, let us find out the range which we are moving around in, because we don't want him walking out of this little wooden area, this graveyard part. We need to know what the limits of the random destination chooser that we are about to create are. So nice quick and dirty way of doing that is if I just create this empty object and I drag it to the coordinates of the corner. So we've got x13, z minus 4. So we're 13 by 13. So we've got minus 13 to 13 basically. I'll just call it minus 12. Yeah, 12 to minus 12, and then on the z-axis 13 to minus 4. So we'll call that 12 as well. So we'll just quickly go back to here and comment these in before I forget what they are. So it was minus 12 to 12, and let's just make that a bit clearer. And then it was minus 4 to 12 again. Sorry, I've got a terrible memory. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a new function, a new bool, and we're just going to call this one bool check destination. And it's going to take in a vector3 center and a vector3 radius. And then what we're going to do is we're going to feed this in a particular destination in that area, and this is going to check it and make sure that it is free of obstacles. So the first thing we need is an array of colliders, which we'll just call hit colliders, and this is going to use the overlap sphere function. And we pass in the center and the radius. Have I spelled that wrong? Yes, I've missed a P out there. Oh, sorry, this should be a float, not a vector3. Now, the next thing we want to do is we need to loop through all of the results that this gets. So for int I equals 0, I is less than hit colliders. What the? Sorry, I think the wind just blew my door shut. So hit colliders dot length, and then I plus plus. And then inside this for loop, we're going to say if hit colliders I. So we need to know what is acceptable. So we're going to say if the hit colliders transform.tag does not equal, and we're going to say ground, because the ground is okay. If we collide with the ground, that's okay. So if we collide with anything else that we don't want it to say okay. So if it collides with anything that's not the ground, we return false, and then if we get through all of the things that it's collided with and we've not collided with anything else besides the ground, we can return true. On that note, actually, we better actually give the ground a ground tag. So the ground is this plane 46. So add tag ground, and then go back to here and set that. Right, so we've got our check destination. Let's just do away with this because we're not using that anymore. And then we're going to say vector3 new destination equals new vector3, and then we want 3 random dot ranges. The first one is going to be between minus 12 and 12. That's our x-axis. We only want one actually, sorry, because y is always going to be 0. We're not moving up and down, we're staying on a flat plane. And then, what was the other one? Minus 4 to 12. Of course, it helps if you actually put the function in there. So random.range. So this gives us a random destination within those limits there. So what we're going to do with that now is we'll actually do all this in here. We get the new destination, we cache it in this vector3, and then we're going to say if check destination. Oh, we've got an errant curly bracket somewhere in here. It's you, isn't it? And then you need to put actual values in there. So new destination is the position, and then the radius. Let's just say, can we get it straight from our agent? Dot. What's it called? Radius. Is there a radius value? Can we just steal it straight? Yes, we can. Right, so we'll just give it the radius of our player. What we're checking for there is is there anything at that position that within that radius that is not the floor? And if it returns false, then we're assuming that that means that there is something there and we need a different destination. So if it returns true, we can say, well, basically we just set a new destination. So agent.set destination, new destination. However, if it returns false, that means that there's something in the way there and we need to try again. So how do we deal with this? Well, we will set a new bool destination found equals true, false, sorry. And then we're going to say while not destination found. So this will keep looping until a destination is found. And then we do that over and over again until we find a destination, and then when we do find a destination, we set destination found to true. So now if we set him going, off he goes. I'm not sure where he's going to. Actually, if I click on navigation, we should be... you can see this red circle here. That's where his destination is. And when he gets there, we should get a new destination. I don't know where that one is. Can't tell. Is he going outside? It's so exciting. He is going outside. So something's gone wrong with my range there, because that's way further outside the graveyard than I'd intended for it. Let's just quickly check our game object again. Oh, right, okay. So our game object is 10 blocks below the plane, so it's going to be slightly misrepresented. So if we also put it in orthographic view, that gives us an even more accurate view. Let's see how far out it is. Right, okay. So 7 minus 7 to 7. And then the front to back value is, we'll call that 9. We'll call it 0 to 9. Perspective is a bugger. So if we try that again, and we'll just highlight our little mummy here so we can see him walking around, and we'll put a navigation up so we can see where he's going to. So it's coming up with the exact same position at the minute, but that's probably because the seed is technically going to be the same. So you'd have to initiate with a random seed. But as you can see now, his second destination is actually within the graveyard. And he's just going to keep walking around. I'm actually going to make him a bit slower because he does seem to still be moving quite fast compared to his animation. So let's make him 0.4. Oh, that's why he doesn't look to be moving, right? Because we've not set his walking animation to be true. I probably made him too slow now. So let's try that again. Okay, I'm not quite sure where he's going there, but the movement looks better. Okay, it's just outside the fence. I'll let him off for that. And also, I think he's decided that he can't... Right, okay, so it has given him a destination inside the range, inside the area that I set, but he couldn't get to it because of all this stuff in the way. So I could move these objects around, or I could change the parameters so that this became a walkable space, but you get the idea. So what we're going to do now is we are going to... Well, first off, when we initialize, we're going to give it some more random values. So we're going to say agent dot, is it, no, speed equals random dot range, and we're going to say 0. We'll say 3 to 0.6. So hopefully that should still be a decent range. What we'll also do is we're going to take in public materials array. No, sorry, material, which we're going to call materials. And then if I go into here, pull up the materials, We want 3 because that's how many materials we've got. One of these is mobile, we're not bothered about that. But we have a green material, an orange material, and a yellow material. And then back into our code, when we start, we are going to set a random one. So actually, we're also going to need a reference to the mesh renderer. And then we will get this the same way that we get everything else. I want to say mesh renderer dot material dot main texture equals, nope, not main texture, just material, equals materials, and then we say random dot range 0 to materials dot length. Okay, I think we need to do a bit of random seed initial, so we'll just say random.init state then we'll say random.range, and we'll just say I don't know, not to 1024. It's really not important. That's the problem. It's because we haven't got a reference to our mesh renderer, so we're gonna have to make, right, we'll get rid of that. We're gonna have to make this one public, and we'll drag it in the old-fashioned way. So our mesh renderer is on there. Yeah. So if I highlight that and I just drag this to... No, because it's a skinned mesh renderer. Okay. So that shouldn't change any of the code, but it does change this. Let's just duplicate a few and see if any of the others give us color changes. Okay, so they have got different materials. I guess the materials just don't look that different. But at least one of them is showing as orange and another one's showing as yellow. Yeah, they don't look very different to me, but that is the different materials. So now that we've got our little zombies walking around, what we can do now is we can create like a random spawner. And then this will just... Why is he still wandering off out into the outside the graveyard? And we create a random spawner, and